All right, so welcome to our wonderful summit. This summit is called Setting Your Kids Up for Success. We've got a really wonderful lineup for you over the next 3 days. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how executive function challenges manifest in everyday life. And we're going to talk about some specific tips and ways that you can help your child succeed. And then later today, my name's Fawzya Khosti. I'm an executive function coach. And then later today, we're going to talk, in about an hour, we're going to talk with Dr. Sarah Bald. And I will introduce her at the very beginning of her presentation. Day 2, we're going to talk to Clarissa Abijaodi and Jessica Caston of Fusion Academy. They're going to talk about nurturing diverse learners throughout their educational journey. Dr. Brett Anderson will also be the second speaker for tomorrow. He's going to talk about navigating the public educational system. On day 3, we're going to talk to Kent Shelley. We were going to talk to Dr. Mark Shelley as well, but Mark Shelley had to leave town. He had a family emergency and he will not be able to make it on Wednesday. But Kent Shelley is going to talk about the importance of parental relationships and how they impact children. I think this is going to be a phenomenal speaker because he comes from a perspective that we normally don't talk about. And then Matthew Huff-Hines is going to talk about specific tips on how to improve communication with your child. So we're going to go ahead and get started today with how executive function challenges manifest in everyday life. And I'm going to offer you specific tips on how to help your child succeed in their day-to-day life. So my name is Fawzya Khosti. I'm an executive function coach. I am the owner of Fawzya Khosti Executive Function Coach. I'm also the host of Focus on Success, which is an international radio show, and it comes on Voice America's Empowerment Channel every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And if you get a chance to listen, there's lots of wonderful speakers coming on weekly. How executive function challenges manifest in everyday life. Well, most people kind of know what executive function challenges are these days, with it becoming more and more popular. Executive function challenges typically are the things we talk about that include focus, problem-solving skills, motivation, anything that kind of keeps you from being successful. You can get 100 different psychologists in a room, and they're probably not going to agree exactly on what executive function challenges are, but they will agree that they are learned. And we're going to talk specifically about how to help your child learn these executive function skills. So here's one of my favorite quotes. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And this is really important. As we go through life, we need to remember that excellence is something that we practice. We have to do things repeatedly. We have to do them often. So if you are good at baking, you have to bake often. You have to bake repeatedly. If you are really good at making chocolate chip cookies and you have the best recipe in town, that is not accidental. That is because you put in the effort, you put in the time, and you create this habit of maybe being very precise in your measurements and all those wonderful things that go with doing something well. So when someone comes to me, I usually hear the following things. My child has low self-esteem, or poor confidence. Their self-confidence is suffering. They don't feel good about test taking. They don't feel good about reading. They're having difficulty with science. And because of that, their grades are dropping, or their grades have always been poor. We just accept them, or they don't finish their homework in class. They don't write down their homework. And so when they get home, they don't even know what they have to do. Or if they do write it down, they don't look at the calendar, or they don't look at their to-do list, so they don't even know what needs to be done. That they're almost missing like a little piece in their daily activity. They don't complete their homework, or they don't turn it in. Or my personal favorite, they complete it, they do the homework, and then they don't turn it in on time. So they hold on to it for several days. It just doesn't make sense, but yet this is what executive function challenges look like. They may not pay attention, they can't focus, they're easily distracted. They cannot find anything in their room or desk or backpack, or they have a really messy desk, really messy backpack. If you look inside a child's backpack when they have executive function challenges, they are usually just cram-packed with all kinds of papers and just things that they really don't need. Or they're always late because they're looking for something. And sadly, this can really cause some students to feel anxious, and they feel anxious often because they're just not being successful in their day-to-day activities. Sometimes they can't regulate their emotions properly, so they get impulsive, they maybe react inappropriately, and that can cause social skill challenges. So maybe they don't have any friends, or maybe they have one or two friends, but those relationships are really stressed. And sometimes they have gaps in their learning. Actually, a lot of times they have gaps in their learning, because if they're not paying attention in class, or they're not doing their homework, then they're missing really big areas in their learning. And so when they move from one grade to the next, they end up having, their challenges get bigger and bigger. They end up having more problems because, as an example, if you're learning multiplication, you have to know how to add and subtract first. If you miss subtraction, how are you going to learn to multiply? And how are you going to move into algebra or calculus or any of those more complex tasks if you don't have the basics under your belt? So these are some of the things that I see. This is not everything that I see. This is not everything that I hear. These are just the most common items that I hear from parents as they come looking for help. So this past year, because of COVID, we've had a lot of challenges specifically with online learning. A lot of students have been at home, they get bored easily. So because they're bored, they're unable to focus, they're unable to focus on the task at hand. And then they might play video games or watch YouTube because they can't follow the lecture online, so they're just moving on to something else. Sometimes they just don't have the appropriate setup. I had a child, 12 years old, who I was working with over the past year, and he had a room all to himself just for his desk. He had a beautiful computer, but he had a setup on the computer to do YouTube videos. He had no space on his desk for a printer. He had no pens, no pencils, no paper. He couldn't take notes, but he could make a YouTube video. So when you don't have the appropriate setup, it's kind of hard to do the work that you're supposed to be doing. A lot of times younger kids, especially in middle school or even younger, if they're at home and they're supposed to be online with school, how are they, if they already struggle with time management, how can they manage online learning? If they're disorganized, that causes even more disorganization. If they're having trouble with focus, this is another issue that gets even more amplified. And it actually sets them up to forget their homework and maybe not turn it in because they think, okay, my teacher did a lecture this morning from 8 to 8:45. As soon as that lecture ends, the child goes and sits on the couch and watches, Netflix till 3 o'clock until the next teacher comes on and does their lecture. So consequently, nothing gets done all day. Bottom line, a lot of kids just don't have the self-discipline to do the work they're given online without supervision, which is why so many parents are constantly on top of their kids about, you do your homework, you need to make sure you do all these things. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward. So we're going to talk about tips and strategies to help your child succeed. But first, we're going to talk about summer. You have to let your kids decompress. COVID has been incredibly stressful. And I think it's really important to take time this summer to let your kids recalibrate. Just let them decompress. Create some strong family bonds. Take a vacation. Play games with your kids. If that's something you haven't done all year, play games with your kids. Make them feel connected. Try new things. Learn a new skill. These are all super important in everyday life. And I think it's important that you even do something with your child together. So maybe you learn how to make donuts together. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. You're just doing something together. And allow your children to socialize. That's something that has been problematic over the last year. And I think it's an important role. Socialization has a very important role in how children succeed later in life. So allow them to play with their friends, play outside, go have birthday parties, maybe even try a summer camp, go hiking. All these things are super important in helping your child recalibrate and feel just like they're normal again. And one of the most important things that I put on here that most people don't talk about a lot is spending time alone. It's really important for kids to sit alone and kind of process the information that they're getting. Allow them to really develop their own ideas. Allow them to really think about life and what everything means and how things fit together, and ask you the questions that they need to ask. So if your child wants to spend time alone, I think that's okay. As long as it's not every day, all day long, I think it's actually very appropriate. So here's some things that we can talk about over the summer. Self-esteem and confidence come up so often for me that I think it's really important that we work on self-esteem and confidence. And a lot of people don't know the difference, but self-esteem is what I would describe as how you feel about who you are. Confidence is how you feel about the things you can do. And so really work on helping your child feel good about who they are. And one of the things you can do when you're learning new skills is remind them that they are good at things, and that the more they practice, the better they get at things, the more self-confidence they're going to have. And practice is really important. We have to remind kids that they are kids and they are going to need to practice things. They are going to have to try things out in order to get good at things. One of the most important things that you can do this summer is find and eliminate learning gaps. Over the past year with COVID, a lot of students have had learning gaps because online learning is kind of distant. And so you don't have the teacher right there watching and seeing what they're missing. It's important to kind of find those and then eliminate them. And how do you do that? Well, I recommend going to someplace like Lakeshore Learning Center. And at least one of the things I did when my kids were younger, and this is way before COVID, my kids are older, my kids are 20 and 23. But one of the things that I did every year is I went to Lakeshore and I bought the curriculum, the entire curriculum for the grade they were just in and the next year's grade. So what we did is we reviewed anything that they struggled with, any kind of concepts, any ideas that they might have had a difficult time with. We would offer tutoring for anything that they had a challenge with. And then we would start looking at the curriculum for the next year, just to kind of get the idea fresh in their mind and let them think it through. I had two kids, I still have them. I have two kids that were both preemies. And so they both struggled with executive function challenges. And so one of the things that I found that really helped relieve their anxiety was just to have that repetition. So we repeated things quite a bit when they were younger, and that really helped improve their executive function skills. And we had a lot of fun doing it. I took my kids, to amusement parks, and my daughter would be doing math in her head while we're in the amusement parks. We'd go to museums, we'd go to the art museum, we talk about art, and we talk about, different periods of, different types of art, the Renaissance or whatever. So have fun with your kids as they're trying to get through the summer and trying to catch back up, essentially. And ask for help when you need it. This week we have, some amazing people giving you their expertise for free. If you need their help, ask for it. It's important that you get the help that you need now so that these issues don't build up over time. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about getting ready for school. So if your child is going back to school in the fall and you know that they're going to be learning online, make sure that they have a dedicated workspace. It should be a desk that's in a quiet area, maybe not so isolated that they don't know you're in the house, but in a quiet area where they can, focus, they can problem solve, they can do all the things that they need without interruption, but yet they're close enough to you that they can come and ask for help. Make sure that they have all the supplies that they need in one place. So if they're sitting at a desk, make sure they have pens, pencils, paper. A printer is really important. A lot of people think, oh, we just need one printer, and they kind of go into this, they've got a family center and everything gets printed in this one area. But I've noticed that if your child has a little bit more independence, they have their own printer and they have everything they need right there in front of them, that the likelihood of them doing everything they need is greater. They're more likely to print something if the printer is in that room that they're in. They need to print all their worksheets ahead of time. If you have access to all the assignments the night before, or the day before, or 2 days before, print them at that time so that your child has a space to work or time to work on those things. Have folders for each class so that they can keep those worksheets, and then when they're ready to scan them and turn them in, they're all organized. Complete all the work on time. Follow, I wouldn't follow your child around, but I would definitely have them show you their completed work. Make sure that they are turning it in. Double check to make sure it's turned in properly. A lot of times kids don't realize, that they didn't turn something in because maybe they just didn't push one button. They might have uploaded it, but they didn't press send. So double check your child's work and avoid technology burnout. This burnout is something that I've been dealing with quite a bit with a lot of my students this year, where they're on the computer all day long for school. And then they turn around and they're on the computer playing games. They're on Discord playing games with their friends. They're just on technology all day long. They're talking on the phone or texting. Actually, nobody under 30 talks on the phone anymore. But these are all really important things to remember, and keep the distractions to a minimum. Do not have your child's, video set up in the room so that they can make YouTube videos. That should not be in the same room as their schoolwork. So, and most important on this list is advocate for yourself and allow your child to advocate for themselves. If they need help, whether it be from you, the teacher, or a coach or a tutor, anyone they need help from, they need to be able to ask for it. I can't tell you how many times I have kids come into my office and they say, well, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like that was something I could ask for. And so let your child know that they can ask for these things and that you are there to support them. All right, so let's talk a little bit about patience. I see people kind of lose their patience a little bit, and I think it's important to know that we can all do better when we know better. So if you don't do something well, it's okay. Just forgive yourself, forgive your kids, let them be forgiving of you, and focus on the things you can control. And my favorite little saying, focus on progress, not perfection. This is a problem that I see a lot of gifted kids running into. where they're really focused on making everything perfect, and they really should be focused more on just making progress. So if you only finish 90% of the homework and that's all you're going to finish, turn it in. At least try to get 90% credit. Over the summer, it's a good time to help your child learn some time management skills. So we're going to talk a little bit about the use of a calendar, creating an overview of assignments, using checklists, to-do lists, using a timer, and also talking a little bit about how to prioritize. So I like to use two different kinds of calendars. I like the paper calendar. I personally like the flip calendars where it has the whole year. That's a really good calendar for planning, for overviews, to look at what your child has to do. If they're older and they have long-term projects, this is where you would want to put those projects. If they are older and they have a phone, they could put their big project overview on the written calendar, but maybe have a to-do date with a reminder on their cell phone. So you can use both of them together, but slightly different. I really enjoy using a planning calendar so that I can just see everything for the whole month. But then I put all my appointments in my actual phone calendar. So I do use both quite well together. So that might be a habit that you can try getting into with your child. I really enjoy the idea of having a family calendar. A lot of my clients have used these very successfully, and they really like the idea of having it color coded. And this makes it easy so that everyone can see what everyone else in the family has going on. So you can see when mom has, work, or you can see when somebody has football practice or a dental appointment or dinner out or slumber party or something like that. So these are all really important. And if you color code them, then everyone can see what it is that everyone else is doing, and it's easier to plan around each other. So if if you need a ride home from your mom, you probably don't want to plan that ride at a time when she's at work. You want to plan it when she can come pick you up from school. So these are all really important things. And the most important thing of all is if you use a calendar, or if you have a calendar, use it. There's absolutely no use in creating all this work and then not using it. I have students that will go through all the trouble of creating these wonderful calendars, and then they don't want to use them and they don't understand the benefit of it. So this is something that you might want to model to your child and show them how well it actually does work for you. For younger children, and I'm talking younger, like, lower elementary grades, in fact, I have one in high school who has trouble with this checklist. So I recommend checklists that you create, type them up, use pictures if you have to, and put them, laminate them and put them on the bathroom mirror, so that when your child gets up in the morning, they do all the things they need to do. They brush their teeth, they get dressed, they eat their breakfast, and they know that they have to leave for school at a specific time. Or at night, you do the same thing so that they know that all the things that they have to do. And this is how you build routines. My rule is usually if they can do this 2 months without reminders, then you remove it. You don't want to put these indefinitely on their mirror. These are just until the habit is built and it's ingrained in them and they do it automatically. So daily to-do lists. I participate in this lovely activity. I like my daily to-do list. I have one right here. So this is something I definitely recommend for you as an adult, as well as for the older kids. Kids in high school and even college really benefit from this. Make a to-do list. And as you complete these items, or as your child completes these items, check them off. I do not recommend drawing lines through them. I see people scratching them out, and I don't like that because you can't see what you finished. I get a great sense of accomplishment at the end of the day when I can look at all the check marks that I've had, next to my to-do list, and I can see all the things that I've actually accomplished. It makes me feel like I've actually done something with my day. And it makes me, and then the things that I don't finish, I can take and put it on the next day's to-do list. And so this is an ongoing thing. Right now I have a flip book. So my little book has the date at the top. And so I just make my list here. But I've used steno pads. I've used all kinds of different notebooks, and they work out really well. The other thing that I really like about using a book is that you can go back and review things. So if you forgot something, or if you thought, gee, I know I finished that project on Tuesday, and you can't find your checklist, it's hard to verify. But if you have your checklist, you can go back, or your to-do list, you can go back and look at it. So it's a really nice thing to have everything in a notebook. All right, so here's one of my favorite little tools. This is Covey's Prioritization Matrix. And I teach this from, I offer this tool to young kids as young as maybe 6th grade all the way up into adulthood. I have adults who are in their 40s that I've introduced this to, and it's really kind of life-changing because a lot of people really don't know how to prioritize. I can tell you by looking at this that most things are going to fall under the 2 category. Most things are not urgent, but they're important. That's why you put them on your to-do list. A few things might fall under the important and urgent, like a surprise quiz that your child's teacher came up with, said, oh, we're going to have a quiz tomorrow. Well, that might be important and urgent. You need to study for that today. But most homework is important, but not urgent. It has a due date. It may not be immediate. It might be, 2 days from now. It might be 3 days from now. So you have some time to budget for that. You have some time to really work on that. Not urgent, not important. Well, that's usually, in my opinion, pulling weeds. In my opinion, if I'm going to pull weeds, they're not urgent, nor are they important, because, it's not something I normally do. So you have to kind of look at everything and decide, where does it fall under this prioritization checklist, and then do them accordingly. So you want to do the number 1s first, then the number 2s, and so on. So another one of my favorite tools is a timer. This is really awesome for kids who have a hard time understanding how much time has passed or how much time something takes. So if you have a young child who doesn't know how long they should be brushing their teeth for, you could put a timer on for 2 minutes and ask them to brush their teeth for the whole 2 minutes, and they have to keep brushing until the timer goes off. Or for an older child, maybe, 4th grade, 5th grade, they don't know how long it should take them to do an assignment. So you can set a timer, and as you set this timer for them, they can kind of gauge how much time has passed. They can decide how much time this particular task should take them maybe again in the future. So they can kind of gauge how much time everything is going to take them. As they get older, they're going to have a better sense of time. As they get older, they're going to have a better sense of how much time it should take them to do their homework, or take out the garbage, or maybe do the laundry. So it really helps with a variety of activities. And you can use this for anything that your child struggles with. If they say, oh, that takes too much time, okay, well, let's see how much time it actually takes. And then you can practice this, and it's really very helpful. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about organization. When you are organized, your child's probably going to be organized too, because most people learn their organizational skills from their family. So make sure you have a place for everything, and you put everything in its place. So like I said before, have a designated workspace, have everything you need in that particular workspace, and then make sure your child cleans their space as they're working, so that it's not this, thing that they do once a year or once every, 6 months. It's continuous. It's every, at the end of every day, pick up everything that needs to be picked up and put it away. let's see if I can move forward. Okay. So here's an example of a child's workspace. The one on the left is the one that it should, that's kind of the ideal workspace. It's nice and clean. It has everything you need. It has paper and pen for notes. It has the phone for writing, things in the calendar. It has pretty much everything you need except for the printer. The one on the right is somebody that has a lot of challenges with organization. And that is probably not a good way to have your child's desk. So when your child is working from home, make sure that their desk is not like the one on the right, that it's more like the one on the left. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it definitely has to be clean enough that they can find everything they need. And model best practices. Remember, executive functioning skills are learned. Your child watches everything you do, so please act accordingly. If you want your child to have good executive function skills, then model the best ways that you can model. Have excellent organizational skills, have excellent time management skills. And chances are your child will practice that if they're watching you do the same thing. And then the basics, exercise, eat well, get plenty of rest. These things are important even for executive function skills, because if you are eating well and you are taking care of your body and you're getting rest, that lowers anxiety just by itself. And so all that anxiety that they might get because they're not organized or they don't have good time management skills, this helps relieve some of that. And keep a positive attitude. Over time, your child will develop the appropriate skills that they need. They will. It's going to take time, but as long as you have a positive attitude and you are willing to do the things that need to be done, things will move forward and they will succeed. And have a sense of humor about it. It's not the end of the world. If they mess something up, your child doesn't do something well, it is what it is. And you just have to have a sense of humor about it. And if I'm going to leave you with anything, I would say make sure you have fun. Life does not have to be so serious all the time. Even when you're dealing with serious challenges, have fun, play games. A lot of the games that I play when I work with students, I probably wouldn't have to if they played games at home. So play games that help encourage good executive function skills. Play Uno, play, Monopoly, just have fun. Travel, connect with nature. I consider nature the great reset button. Anytime your child has anxiety, anytime your child has stress, go outside, go for a walk, take a hike. You're going to feel so much better. Also, connecting with other people is important. When you connect with other people, you have that support system, you're going to feel more connected. And so if you model that behavior for your child, they are going to feel more connected and they're going to feel supported. And so it makes those failures or those challenges less dramatic. They're just not going to be as big of a deal as they would be if they did not have support. And if you are interested in hearing more about what I do, I have a radio show called Focus on Success on Voice America's Empowerment Channel every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. You're welcome to join me. I also have a podcast which you can listen to anywhere you get podcasts. So you're welcome to follow me there. And actually, Dr. Sarah Bald will be speaking after me. She's been on my radio show. Pretty much everybody that is going to be speaking over the next 3 days has been on my radio show. So you're welcome to go back and look at their podcasts and listen to what they had to say. And if you are looking to connect with me, my information is below. And I do offer a free consultation. So if anyone's interested in having a free consultation on anything other than technology, I'd be happy to help you out. So my number is 480-648-1122.